Sup, Nerdmigos? I'm the Jive Talking Nerd, John Norgrove. We've got Wife here. We're here for another review. Jive, yesterday was Terrible Movie Tuesday. It was kind of a throwback for us because we actually watched this when it first came out. But the movie for yesterday was The Silence, starring Stanley Tucci and Kiernan Shipka.
And Miranda Otto.
And Miranda Otto, yeah. Wow, yeah.
How
Kiernan
dare you
Shipka.
miss Eowyn?
I guess. I don't even know what that means. Anywho,
This guy.
So this is this is available on Netflix. This is basically a sound-based horror movie, much like how
A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place was sound-based, or whatever the Sandra Bullock Bird one.
Bird Box.
Bird Box. How that was like sight-based horror. So this one is. Some assholes break into a cave and release a bunch of weird sonic murder bats. Yep. And these weird sonic murder bats hunt anything that makes noise. And so it follows this family as they slowly dwindle their numbers down, trying not to get murdered by murder bats.
Yeah.
And
to
occasionally...
be clear,
asshole
the
humans.
family did not break into this cave. Unrelated people
some
did.
Like vague assholes who are in construction clothing.
And this family lives in New York. We're not exactly sure where, but they live in New York State.
Yeah. They said
they're trying
near
to
downtown,
escape.
but in one of the overhead shots, it shows them in like a suburban hellhole. So I don't really know how
they're
far.
Like on the freeway, like near their house, and they like look back to the skyline, and I was like, "What skyline is that?" Because it legitimately did not look like the New York skyline, although I have not seen it from that far away. That's an unusual
Maybe it was
shot
like
for
a weird
movie.
distance or something.
I don't know,
yeah.
but to me, I was like, is that LA? Is that the same shot from Independence Day?
I mean, really, where they are doesn't matter. So basically, the plot of this movie is these birds are going to hunt you if you make sound. So these people decide that the best course of action would be to get away from the like urban sprawl. Yeah. And so they go to like a cabin that they have out in... Well,
they're just trying to kind of escape.
Yeah, well, they're trying to get out into basically like into the woods as they decide. And they like make their way to a small town and they run afoul of a weird tongueless priest man. And it's just a whole bunch of
weird,
weirdness.
Creepy people. So this is basically like a creature post-apocalyptic kind of movie. Really, you could substitute the like bat murder things for like zombies, and that would be basically the exact same movie. Hey, you could also substitute it for the sound. You could also substitute it for The Wind. Like in The Happening, and it would basically be the same movie. No,
because The Happening is literally the worst movie ever made.
No, it's not. It's a fantastic
everybody
movie.
involved in The Happening should feel bad.
Shut your mouth.
They should all feel super bad
Don't you say bad things about Mark Wahlberg's movies.
And The Mist.
Also,
Marky Mark can suck a dick
don't say bad things about John Leguizamo's movies.
John Leguizamo can also suck a dick about that movie.
I'm pretty sure
Zoe
Deschanel's been in a few bad movies, but also the guy from Clerks was in that. I digress. That's not the movie we're talking about today.
It's not that don't worry.
But they go over a lot of the same themes that you see in a lot of these kind of like post-apocalyptic ones. It's a family, they're trying to escape.
It takes place all within the same
people who are like evil
amount of time.
And they have to try to overcome it.
Yeah.
So because this is one of those like senses kind of based horror movie where they're dealing with sound, much like in A Quiet Place, they have a family member who uses sign language, so the whole family uses sign language. Yeah. The main character, the girl, what's her name? Sabrina. That's not her name in the movie, but she's Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, she's the girl who plays Sabrina.
And she was like in a car accident when she was a kid.
Yeah, and she lost most of her hearing.
Yeah. She can hear like really loud like sounds, but very, very muffled. Yeah. But her and her family primarily communicate via sign language, but she's also very adept at reading lips. So there are times where that's kind of not as necessary, and she can speak. Because this car accident happened when she was old enough to understand how to speak, so she has that ability to do that. So it's not exactly like the way that A Quiet Place.
No, I mean this is the thing. Like a great many things in Hollywood, somebody made A Quiet Place, and then somebody said that's a great idea, cheapen it. This movie. Yeah. However, in my opinion, this movie's better than A Quiet Place.
I really like this movie better than A Quiet Place as well.
Quiet Place is okay. This movie does, in my opinion, a better job of addressing it. The movie's a little rushed, in my mind. Yeah. Right? They present, like, these bats are out there, and immediately, like, the world is just a fucking hellhole, which kind of doesn't make sense.
I think this would have made a much better
killed with, like,
series.
just, like, a stick in the air, you know?
Yeah.
So they're not like bulletproof, which is the thing in A Quiet Place, which is how they like overran the government.
Yeah,
or
and
whatever.
they don't use any form of like echolocation, and also if you move very slowly or stand still, they tend to lose you. So kind of like the T-Rex effect.
It requires the production of sound for them to find you. Obviously, if you're like shut the fuck up and standing still, you're not going to get seen by him or caught by him or whatever.
I think this would have been a way better miniseries than a movie, and I enjoyed this movie, but like I wanted more. Everything did feel rushed, but it felt, even though it was rushed, that it was well done. But there was a lot of homages to other things in this. There's some homages to the movie and also the book, The Mist. There's some homages to some of the things that happen early on in the comics of The Walking Dead. I'm talking like pre-episode or pre-issue 75.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like cool things that they do that are homages to stuff, which I really enjoyed. But also I really liked the actors. I really like... really, all of the actors that were in this are actors that I enjoy watching in general.
Yeah.
Stanley Tucci, the dad.
Primarily Stanley Tucci.
He's the dad. The mom, Miranda Otto, Sabrina, I like her. Her little brother is good.
The kid brother's all pretty good,
The best friend,
the friend
uncle
is
guy.
arguably the best character.
Yeah.
He's just not around for very long.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, right? This is a really good movie. And... obviously, turning it into something a little bit longer form would have given them a chance to explore the universe a lot more. But in the manner in which the movie progresses, I think it's very clear that this is an underdeveloped universe within this movie, right? It's like, all right, these as an example, right, these animals sometimes are directly moving towards a source of sound. Yet sometimes when they're in when they're like basically scratching at a wall, right, or at a vehicle, if somebody's making a sound over there, there's a time delay between when they react to that sound, which kind of makes sense, but also kind of doesn't, because they're from a cave system, so they would be used to a hard surface isn't something that you can move through.
Yeah.
Also, these things don't have echolocation, and I think that that's a fucking huge miss in this movie. There's a scene where they're like very quietly like planning out and doing a thing to like escape some bats inside of a building or whatever the fuck. And it's that thing where like you can hear the bats, they're standing still and they're just listening for something to make a noise. But an animal that can fly in an enclosed space would have, if it evolved so much as to totally lose sight and rely heavily on sound, it would have logically developed some form of echolocation to be able to produce sounds to properly map it. Because, like, I don't know if you've ever tried to, close your eyes and run through your house at full speed, but I'm pretty certain you're going to get a fucking concussion if you did that. And these birds just slam into shit all the fucking time.
They really do.
You know?
Well, another problem that I had with
it also seemed like the whole egg thing was very like, oh, we just discovered that they're laying eggs, which was a cool scene, but at the same time, I'm like...
I mean, there's not a clear sense of time in between when this movie starts and when it ends. Like, is this a couple of days?
It seems like it's maybe a couple of months,
a couple of hours. I mean, there's really no clear sense of time. So, I mean, maybe they just hadn't reproduced
the very
yet.
end. It jumps.
Yeah.
Far in the future.
There's the thing that I was thinking about during this watching of the movie is, so if they're like from a cave, then they wouldn't be in the sunlight, and these creatures are like all up in the sunlight.
Yeah.
And that's even for things that don't have eyes that are from caves, and there are many examples of this in the real world.
That have eyes but that no longer function
they have difficulty with being in the sunlight and in the bright light.
Molecularly destructive.
Yeah, it really kind of does interesting things. So that could maybe be a way that you could explain away some of the echolocation stuff. Maybe they're in so much pain that they just like aren't thinking that well about it. I don't know, dude.
I guess.
But I was thinking about that during this watch.
Especially this watch. And I really do enjoy this movie, but especially this watch, it's like, the creatures are cool, and I actually like the creatures more than the ones from
Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place. But the creatures are cool, but again, it's not fully developed, right?
Yeah.
I think that like, the use of the daughter is already deaf was very interesting. I think the way that Stanley Tucci's character made decisions was very interesting. and very good. Honestly, he's such a great actor in this movie. He does such a good job of treading the line.
I don't feel like the family members made stupid decisions.
For the sake of stupid decisions. Some of the decisions they made were very fucking stupid. Don't get me wrong. But they weren't making stupid decisions as a plot device to further something.
Exactly.
Which is
I think they were doing
commonality.
the best they could with what they had, both as mentally as characters and physically in the real world. All of the decisions I felt were pretty, on par.
They were standard for middle America kind of deciding.
Middle class trying to get out of this sort of thing.
Yeah,
they weren't pulling like some Carl stunts.
Yeah, they weren't doing something extremely dumb.
Walking Dead,
and they weren't doing backflips, throwing knives and shit. So they were a good middle of the road, adaptable, like you could put yourself in their place sort of family.
To me,
it was fairly realistic. There were a couple of times where they did shit that logically doesn't make any sense, but like character-wise sort of made sense. So that's fine. And you really do just kind of get thrown into this family. Like here's 5 minutes of setup, doom shit happens.
Yeah.
Ready.
But there's not a lot of foreshadowing
because of the lack of time.
Post-apocalyptic stuff is good too.
Well, yeah, but because of the lack of time and definition with time, and because of the lack of a fully thought out creature, and because of the rapidness with which this devolves from regular everyday right now kind of life to nobody's in the streets, most humans are dead, these creatures have taken over, there is no government or electricity. It feels like more time passed than logically passed.
Yeah, I think if you were to go by only what we saw, it would only be a matter of days in the movie. But I felt like there was more time.
Maybe a month.
Well, no, we only saw
and then the very end scene
like 3 or 4
months.
nights in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it's unclear with the amount of time, but again, I think that would be remedied by having a longer format to be able to tell this story.
A longer format would help with the time constraints. Honestly, I think just like a logical second look at the raison d'etre for the creatures, right? Why are they hunting? Are they hunting to breed? Are they hunting to feed? Is it both? How do they hunt? Are they just relying on you making sound? Because that's real fucking easy not to do. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of little shit. As another solid example, that very last scene, right, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about, but as the camera pans past the creature, you can see, fall leaves on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, why would they be out in an area where there's just fall leaves on the ground, right? And I think this is that, as much as I prefer this movie to A Quiet Place thought some of its decisions just a little bit more through. The idea of the sand utilization because it super dampens the sound and shit like that. So there were a couple of things that I felt weren't thought out in this movie, but in the grand scheme of things, it still resulted in a superb movie. So it can only get better. It feels a lot
less fatalistic than in A Quiet Place.
Yeah, A Quiet Place was very giant eagles.
A Quiet Place, it felt I didn't think it was very giant eagles. I think A Quiet Place felt very fatalistic. You can not make sound for a while, but what happens if you have a baby and you need labor pains? That's not really something you're generally quiet for in popular culture. I've not had a baby, I don't know. I imagine you kind of can't keep quiet there.
Yeah.
But the monsters were also very, very, very difficult to kill in A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
And your level of sound that you were able to make was significantly lower as well. So I felt like in A Quiet Place, the odds were really stacked against you, and it made it hard for me kind of to enjoy A Quiet Place fully, because it just felt like overcoming such insurmountable odds. How are you gonna kill all of them? How are you gonna be able to restart a society or have anything more than just, okay, well, this is your family, and then when the last one of you dies, that's it, dude. And that's to say we haven't seen the second. We don't really know much about the second one.
We don't know what's going on there.
But this one, the creatures were easier to kill. The threshold for the amount of sound that you could make was a little higher.
It was kind of all over. Sometimes a very gentle noise.
Sometimes they could whisper.
Sometimes birds are still attacking the car. motherfucker 20 feet away is firing a gun off.
Yeah. So there's some
let's-
inconsistencies,
Yeah.
but I felt that this was easier for me to really like root for that family and feel like they had a chance afterwards.
I feel like in this one the family had a significantly larger chance of success. I don't think that Quiet Place was necessarily like insurmountable. I think that it was just they set up a series of rules and then they really stuck with it.
That's true.
And
That's true.
in
really
this
did.
movie, there's they're like, these things are attracted to noise. We should leave town. But if you're quiet in your house, why would they attack your house? Right? Because later on, they're in a house being quiet. Their house doesn't get attacked. So it's this movie just has some it has some thinking to do to get there. Right? It's still a great movie. I still highly recommend it. If you've seen it, let us know what you think of it below. But I think that one extension into a miniseries or possibly even a full series, as well as maybe having pulling in a third writer. Or an additional writer. I don't know how many writers there were. Pulling in an additional writer, or maybe just like trying to expand on the universe, because this one didn't really feel like there was a universe so much as a series of events that happened. And that's really my only complaint about this movie. As we were watching it last night, I mean, there were some times when it's like I remember the movie super clearly, and I remember these characters, and some of the characters were super interesting, and the actions that were taken were super interesting, but there was still that, like, every once in a while something would happen, and you're like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, like, plot-wise, but, yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
But either way, I think that this is a great movie. I think we both enjoyed this
Absolutely,
a great deal.
yeah.
Highly recommend you watch it. It's available on Netflix.
I'd give this a 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Easy 4 out of 5. If you liked the movie, let us know. If you didn't or have other opinions about it or Quiet Place, let us know down below. Either way, I've been John Norgrove. This has been Wife. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. This was Terrible Movie Tuesday. We watched The Silence. This is Review Jive. I don't know if I already said that. And
that was on Netflix, right?
It was on Netflix. Yeah. I think I've said that like 5 times now. It's on Netflix. Go watch it.
Netflix!
We'll catch you guys next time.